time shows 7:30 in the morning. Robert is still laying on his bed, closing his eyes and loudly snoring. Unlike Robert, Margaret was already off the bed 2 hours earlier and she's in the kitchen preparing some breakfast. Just like his father, but little bit better, their only 13-year-old son Max has been awakened and now he's in the living room watching TV, but suddenly her mom approaches him. "Max, please do me a favor." Looking at Max anxiously. "What's the matter, Mom?" "Please wake Daddy up, sweetheart. Daddy have a big day today." "Sure, Mom," said Max, nodding. Max rapidly runs into his father's room and frantically screams, "Daddy! Daddy!" "What in the world?" Robert being startled awake. He's dressed himself, but he's still half asleep. "Are you ready?" "Just wake your ass up, okay," said Margaret in front of his bed door. "Yeah, I'm totally ready, just 5 more minutes of closing my tired eyes, okay?" Infurious, his wife replied with a soft relaxing sound, yet threatening. She's calling Robert by his full name. "Roberta Lewandowski, you better get your ass up, whore." Knowing that he's screwed, Robert finally awakes. Okay, I'm getting ready," he said to her, and he's coming out of the room to have breakfast with his family. After all things settled, he's ready to go to the airport. Sadly, the heavy rain just hit hard in Robert's house in Denver. He hoped that the weather would soon be friendly as he got into the airport. Luckily for his family, since it's Saturday, they can accompany Robert to the airport. "Okay, are we ready to go?" "Yes, we are." Robert, his wife, and Max went downstairs in the car, and they set course to Denver International Airport. At that time it took a half-hour journey to drive there. Luckily, there's not much traffic since the rainy days. Robert is driving the car. He's a very experienced driver, that's why even though it's still rainy outside, he's still able to drive the car safely. Margaret is behind Robert and she's busy with tapping her phone screen to check her social media. Fairly next to his mom, at the middle seat, Max is sleeping peacefully. He's easily getting bored with any road trip. Concerned with Robert always exposing his teeth and rolling his eyebrows together, his wife Margaret asked, "Are you alright, darling?" "I'm fine, always feeling fine, there's nothing to worry about. It's just..." "Never mind," Robert answered his wife, panicky. "Alright, fine. Just be careful with the road." Hearing their conversation, Max finally gets up and looking out of the car window and sighs heavily while on his mind, he complained, "Gosh, I hate seeing roads and city buildings, and now they're starting their things again." Then Max asked, "Dad, are we there yet?" Just as Max asked his dad, he sees a big plane coming down from the sky above and precedes their car. "Yep, just a few turns and roundabouts, we're there." Arriving at the airport, Robert is quick to step out of the car. He wants to get rid of this boredom as soon as possible. Max hurriedly ran out of the car while his dad took the suitcase out of the trunk. Since the parking lot is carefully designed, they can see the airplane in front of their car parking spot. Max looks at the airplane, but there's no movement. "Dad, what's going on? Why did they stop flying the plane?" "It's just being parked, son. I think they're tired." "Whoa, they're so big," Max replied. Surprised by the way his son answered him, Robert feels so uncomfortable, and his wife, who is sitting inside the car, sees Robert's face going pale and her hand shaking for a moment. "Something just doesn't feel right here." "Why?" Robert complained inside his own mind. After taking things and saying farewell with his family, Robert walks into the airport. His flight takes off at 11 a.m., and Robert arrives at 9 sharp. Rushed, he runs into the check-in gate. So far so good, it's a bit different, but I hope that it's just a weird dream that is never going to happen. While he was running, he tripped and fell into some stranger. "Hey, watch your goddamn step, mate," yelled the young man. "Sorry pal." Rushed. Robert apologizes to the young man that he falls into, and finally he's able to check in on time. While handing over his luggage, he's daydreaming. In his own mind he cried, "What's wrong with me? Am I cursed? Why did it feel so?" Panicking with what's wrong with him, suddenly he realizes that he hears some voice. It's about his flight to Miami, but he couldn't hear any better. The announcer said, "Flight to Miami number A32 would soon be departed." Upon hearing that announcement, Robert rapidly sprints to find his boarding gate, only to be reminded by the airport security gates that there's no need to rush since there's still plenty of time ahead. "Relax, sir, where are you trying to go?" While putting off any metal wearables and putting down his phone onto the basket, Robert replied, "I'm going to Miami, and I hear the PA that the flight will be departing soon." The security said, "There's no PA about the flight to Miami, sir." "Are you sure?" "Yeah, there's only one flight and it'll be departing in 40 minutes from now." Calmed by the staff officer, Roberts walks into his boarding gate and upon showing his pass to the staff, he's allowed to get into the plane. After finding his seat, he sat down, looking around and the plane was stuffed. "I'm the last person to enter the aircraft," Robert thinks. Time passed by and finally the plane was going to fly soon. When he listens to the staff explaining about safety, Robert feels so sleepy and eventually falls asleep, only to be awakened by the loud noise of a crying baby a few minutes later. Here he started to be hyperventilating, his breath is uncontrollable and he's panicking. It's happening, that dream about this day. It feels so vivid, it's the time. It should be happening anytime soon. Robert knows that the plane will suffer turbulence anytime soon and starts to mount his seatbelt firmly. It's happening. The plane wobbles so hard and the passengers scream panically. A few minutes later, the plane stopped, and the captain ordered us to be calm as there's nothing to worry about. "Thank God, I used this seatbelt, I'm safe. It really feels so familiar to my dream in the morning today." Robert thanked himself in his mind. "It's okay, I'll be saved, and I'll meet her as soon as I get off this plane." Robert knows that in his dream he'll be picked by a gorgeous young woman in Miami. Few hours passed and the plane now arrived at Miami International Airport. Robert blushing and rushed to get off the plane, but sadly his dream was wrong. There's no one to pick him up, so he decided to use the taxi service. Outside the airport, Robert sees an empty taxi car. Then, he jumped into that car and said, 2690 Coral Way and SW 27th Ave, please. The driver nodded and quickly drove him to the location. But, after an hour of the ride, the driver drove him into a fairly sketchy industrial area instead. Robert worried and asked the driver, "Sir, are we on the right track here?" Instead of answering him, the old man just stares him in the eyes through the rearview mirror. In panic, Robert tries to get out of the taxi but to no avail as the old man drives into a sketchy building near some place that he thinks is a dock, maybe. There the old man stopped, left the taxi, and locked the car. Few minutes passed already. In silence he hears some screams follow with some roaring engine, like a two-stroke engine he believed. "Oh my God, what's that?" Robert worried. "I need to get out of this car as soon as possible. I don't like any of that sound." Robert decided to break the car window and finally he succeeded. But, as soon as he got out of the car, the sound of the roaring machine was back and now it feels like someone is coming toward him. Shit, what kind of scary sound is that? Luckily, Robert found some decent hideout near the car. As soon as he positioned himself, he heard someone coming alongside with the scary sound of the two-stroke engine. Closer and closer until he sees someone vividly coming towards the car. Holy shit, that's so enormous. Oh my God, what happened to the person that screamed earlier? Robert now validates that the sound of a two-stroke engine earlier was a chainsaw. She saw what looks like a white Asian young man handing it and it's been dripping something. "It's blood. I'm fucked. Hey, I know you here. Just give up already, pal." The man yelled and revved up his chainsaw. Scared with that, Robert couldn't do anything and was frozen still since he realized that his chainsaw was really covered in blood, not only on his saw, but it also splattered over his clothing and onto his body. Suddenly there's a creak and the young man finds someone hiding, but as soon as he tries to approach the creak earlier, Robert's phone rings and the killer decides to change his mind. Now he runs with his own style towards Robert, revving that thing and laughing frantically. "Hey, I can't move, I'm too afraid to move." Robert cannot move and he sees the other person running behind the killer, as he can only see and is frozen. What does it spell, Yada? Robert sees kind of abstract words painted on the killer clothing, but as soon as he sees it, the killer has been close enough and the chainsaw has been pierced into his head. Feeling immense pain, he tries to scream and scream and scream loudly until Robert realizes that he is still inside the plane and has been looked at weirdly by other passengers and staff. He's surely sure that he's dead, being sliced by the thing. To make matters worse, Robert also realizes that this thing has been happening for such a long time, like a déjà vu. Is it over? Or I'll be damned forever? The end. That's all, guys. Thank you for listening to my quick story. Don't forget to share this video if you like it. Goodbye.